Okay, peace, family. You're tuning into the pro-black perspective on KWAZ Radio. This is, of course, different type of programming in the sense that this is a revolutionary brainstorming session that we've been discussing for quite a long time. So far, I had quite a few people who said they wanted to participate. Not everybody has shown up, but that's fine. You have to. I mean, I don't want to use this person's name, but I was told by, well, not this person, but another person, but Ultimatics told me about what's his name, Adam Clayton Powell Jr. and he said Adam Clayton Powell Jr. used to say, "What's in your hands?" And it was an idea of when you're trying to do work, you have to do work according to what's in your hands. All right, and so in our hands right now are, these five people, and we want to share our resources together to make things happen. A lot of people are not following the news. A lot of people are, but in America right now, they elected a new president, and in their new election, this new president-elect has gathered a team called the transition team in order to form a new government to govern in the next year, to the next 4 years, and that's the intention. Our intention now is to gather our people and find out how we're going to at least attempt to govern our own people for the next how many years, but at least in 2021, or at least get the groundwork moving for that. So without further ado, I don't know if the people want to introduce themselves, they can, but do you guys want to introduce yourselves, or just say hello or anything?
Yeah, this is me. This is Jollof Drug Lord from Twitter. Hello everybody. So you actually put a voice to their face. So yeah.
All right.
Nice.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. So.
No, go on.
Okay. So what I'm going to what I want to do is I want to go over the documentation, the document that I used to explain what was going on, and then I also want us to come together and really consider this. So let's say I'm going to say it's called the Keruwa Nkobia brainstorm session, but basically just to give it an African name, Keruwa Nkobia in a nutshell would essentially mean that we're trying to be the revolutionary vanguard of our people. Because what we have to notice is that right now the quote-unquote imperialists, the quote-unquote whatever you want to call, whoever you're fighting against, I usually call them just hybrids, but whatever you want to call them, they have a stronghold on the minds of our people. All right, our ancient ancestors had said the key to all problems is the problem of consciousness. And if you do a review of our story, you'll know that Marcus Garvey was instrumental in the transformation of our consciousness. And because Marcus Garvey was instrumental for the transformation of our consciousness, notwithstanding the fact that he never even went to Africa, but tons of our liberation leaders from Nkrumah, Azikiwe, and Nyerere, Kenyatta, all of them, had some part, some role with the UNIA or with Marcus Garvey himself. Just to go back, Nnamdi Azikiwe actually wrote for the UNIA's newspaper, as well as he met Marcus Garvey. So we have to understand how important our consciousness is, and it's for us to truly try to get that consciousness going. I want to say for anybody who might want to join the conversation, that you can click on the Discord link. You can click on the Discord link. You can join. It says Keruwa Nkobia if you've already expressed some interest. But outside of that, I want to just go over the I want to go quickly over the pamphlet so that we can actually hear from this illustrious assortment of guests. So I said, KWA asked, how can we work together to bring Africa closer to Pan-African unity and a revolutionary mindset in 2021? Wait, let me just... okay. Yeah, thanks, India. All right, so Africans will not be revolutionary without Africans encouraging a consciousness of Pan-African unity and a need for revolution. So we need to have a consciousness of Pan-African unity and need for revolution. So the theme of this November brainstorm will be, what are some ways that we can actively promote the consciousness we need in Africa and hold each other accountable to it, you know? Now, right now, before we even engage this brainstorm, I'm already predisposed to a pamphlet of one-to-one talks. So I'm just asking, is there a way to formulate a pamphlet or one-on-one talks? So is there a way to formalize and multiply our efforts? You know, can we work through writing pamphlets or organized talks? What are some ideas to hold us accountable for our work in 2021? Would giving each participant a month to engage 10 new individuals, at minimum 2 local and 2 online, and every 6 months would be forming teams, blah, blah, blah. If interested in coming up with a plan of action, you know, you come through. We could do the pamphlet, but your ideas and discussion to discuss more, as in what should be in the pamphlet, what should be in the so on and so forth, communicate our enemies, you know, on and on. But of course, you know, we're already at the brainstorm, so it's better to, instead of dwelling on, you know, this writing, to just ask directly. And so my question to the guests is, what do you think about, oh, hey brother Nat, how you doing? My question to the guests is, what do you think about a pamphlet? Like, do you think that a pamphlet, this is 2020 or 2021, do you think that if we were to work on a pamphlet, that in itself could be a device that we use to transform the consciousness of our people towards what we need it to be? And I mean, if you want, I can actually call on to people, or if you guys want to speak freely, that could work too. Somebody decide. First suggestion wins.
Can I give an opinion?
Okay, so Sunsage.
Okay, so in regards to pamphlets, I think it's fine, but I don't think we should rely specifically on it. I think it's a tool to get started and spread messages, like visual, because people enjoy visual representation and they like seeing things. But I think it's just to get people maybe interested, but not necessarily they'll be drawn to join or even be interested. So it would be a good tool.
So you think that a pamphlet should have a lot of visual engagement instead?
Depends on the type, but yeah, because people are more visual than anything else. But it has to be obvious. It can't be too specific to people who are aware, because most people are pretty much like confused about what's going on. No offense.
No, I like that because, you know, I tend to just put a bunch of paper. Tend to put a bunch of words together. I saw that there was I think actually Brother Nat showed me a flyer from, I guess, Got Kush TV, where they're showing off Kwame Ture's son and his legacy, and it was a lot of images to it. And of course, you know, I put together this flyer, and it's just a bunch of words, you know. And I'm just like, how do you not put a bunch of words? So I mean, I like to concede that those images are really important. So my question then is, how can we use that, and what can we do to use that moving forward? Or does anybody object to the idea of images?
Can I give an opinion quickly before someone else? So with instead of putting a lot of words, which I understand, like you want to give as much info as possible, but people are lazy to read. So with my background, I do art as well. Mm-hmm. So like trying to because you know how a picture is worth 1,000 words. Instead of you writing 50 sentences, you could just create an image that promotes that, you know. Because if people see, like, let's say you have a school and you have like African children running around, or I don't know, in a pamphlet, that in itself shows education, black kids, prosperity, like, you know, like people immediately are in tune. It's like, oh, what is this about?
That's interesting. That's true. Anybody have any point on that? Anybody want to say anything about that?
Yes. After George. Can you hear me?
Yeah. By the way, guys, I'm not really moderating unless you guys are speaking over each other. But if nobody's speaking over each other, feel free to speak.
So here's the first question: who do you want to appeal to? After that question is answered, then we can design for outreach.
Okay. So, oh shoot, hold on a second. Wait, sorry. Let me. I accidentally pressed the wrong button. Hold on a second. Yeah, sorry about that.
I would rather.
I couldn't hear you. Sorry, can you repeat that? I accidentally pressed the wrong button. You said who I want to appeal to and what else?
The first question is who we want to appeal to.
Mm-hmm.
After that is decided, we decide how we want to appeal to them.
Okay.
So it can be whether or not they're professionals, whether or not they have skills that we want, or whether or not it's the masses. That's the question that needs to be answered before we design.
All right. So I want to actually, I think it's important for me to address this one. So, one of the things that I realized is that, I mean, technically it would be the masses. I want to explain why. So, like I said, I mean, I'm not like a fan of these leftists or these white folk or nothing, but it was interesting that, like, the other day I saw that there was like a small book by Lenin, and it was about, and I know that they said it was quoted something about the vanguard, and I wanted to read about the vanguard because I've used the term before, like I heard the term before like a long time ago, so I wanted to read about it myself. As I was reading about it, you know, this guy Lenin was saying that the working class, right, have no real revolutionary potential outside. I mean, unless well, he says like the petty bourgeois intellectuals put it in them, you know. And it reminded me of this ancient African wisdom, which goes that you know, there's no use preaching wisdom to people. You must inject it in their blood. And the idea was that the worker or the working class, the proletariat, will naturally go towards trade unionism, you know, instead of let's say the quote-unquote dictatorship of the proletariat, you know, which makes a lot of sense, you know, because that's so outside of their experience. And, you know, even if you were to just be truthful, the way how the society is set up, and, you know, not to use, like, we could just use the leftist, you know, lingo, or the way how the the way how the bourgeoisie set it up is that they educate the proletariat to essentially rally for trade unionism, which is just basically more rights, blah, blah, blah. And so the parallel, though, with us as an African people is that we ourselves might be conditioned to go to electoralism. And as you could probably gather from the election results that just happened, you know, particularly in America, and like how the whole world is watching as America kind of handles this pretty, you know, pretty impressively for what it is, right? That everyone around the world is going to be looking at, or a lot of Africans are going to be inspired to look at electoralism, electoral politics, as a way to improve their condition. Just like how the quote-unquote workers of 100 years ago will look at trade unionism or unions to improve their lot. So I say this to say that, you know, whereas Lenin was trying to appeal to the working class and to blah, 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 we have to appeal to all of our people as Africans in order to get the mentality that we ourselves need, that our own Pan-African nation. And because at the end of the day, if we just appeal to a handful of us, that will never amount to a real nation, you know. But especially since, you know, in order to get a nation, we would need to acquire land. We will need to acquire, you know, self-governance. We would need to acquire a population, and so we would need our people to be interested on a broad scale, on a far-reaching scale, to be interested in living in their own independent, separate Pan-African nation. And so that's partly who we're trying to appeal to our people to have that sense, to inject in their blood the idea of self-government. The self-government by those of us who are of the opinion of giving them a fair shake at life. And then we have to articulate on that point. And I just want to say, I know Brother Matt wants to say something, so I want to just say too, because earlier today, I think, it might have been today or yesterday, I don't remember, but we were discussing, I think it's Reservax or something, but basically the child, like, quote-unquote child slavery going on in Haiti, but it's normal, like, all over Africa, where it's called, like, domestic servitude and all that. But just this idea that, you know, this is linked to a weak government. This is linked to weak, you know, just weakness among our race, or exploitation and corruption. All this is linked, and so I want to transform the mentality of all of us, because all of us are affected and impacted by the weak governments and the weak and the weaknesses among us. And so I want to appeal to all of us so that there's a clamor among us as a people, and that's really where it comes to. So it is the masses, but the reason why it's the masses, I wanted to articulate that so that we could know that, truly, if we're going to transform this situation, we want a mindset, a consciousness to be widespread and broad. But thank you, sir, everybody. So thank you for the time. Anybody else to say anything about that? Yeah, we can barely hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Alright. First of all, rise up.
Oh no, we can barely hear you. You guys can't hear him, right?
No.
Yeah, I'm saying.
Nah. I can't hear him at all.
Yeah, I can't hear
me
him
now? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, but you keep going in and out.
Yeah.
But yeah, say something.
That's better now.
Alright. So, yeah, first of all, just rise up, everyone. Respect and apologies for being a bit late. In what you're saying, there's a part of me that agrees with it, but then also where I would just raise the query of that, that was a good question of who does this pamphlet appeal to. And I'm working with an umbrella organization called Rapid Africa Plan, and they are looking at trying to paint the vision to the youth. Now, that's their approach in it. However, what it is, and their approach for specifically the youth, is because they've not yet been, many have not been tied to the loins or the tentacles of what we know as the system of white supremacy that colonizes our mind and makes us end up being conformists and so forth. So the struggle to have to convert the masses is quite deep-seated because they are so, loyal to the system, and in that mindset, that colonial mindset. So what I've heard approaches before, and kind of I touched on the youth, but is that the critical mass. So appealing to the critical mass in a sense of those that are actually Pan-Africanists, those that are students of Garvey and Kumra, etc. Those that do have that type of mindset. Alright, I'll just put it on phone. Where they are able to lay out the strategy. A strategy being of how we're going to create what would be new systems, new institutions, new ways of, incorporating Sankofa as well, what we already know, bringing it to the front, what is useful, but just the idea that the critical mass, appealing to the critical mass, letters to the critical mass should be a quick win, because they should get it, and what you want is a range of expertise across all areas of people activity so that they can start to be the experts of any particular field which is otherwise in the Western society, so that we can erect our own institutions, our own systems, etc. It's just to put out that. But however, in all of this said, just to say also is that I'm a big believer of coming at all angles. So rather than it being an either or, that this could be an additional approach, and that it should be multifaceted, and that we should recognise that we're all different, come across the whole spectrum of Africa in different peoples, from coons to Babylon warrior killers. So you can't kind of recognise there's a whole spectrum of mass. Do you know what I mean? Which one do we want to appeal to?
Yeah.
All right, let me leave it there. I'm waffling on.
All right. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much. So, what do you think about that?
Hello?
Yeah. What do you think about that?
We definitely appeal to that.
You told me.
Ancestral, I think you mentioned me. I know that, we want to appeal to everybody. It's just,
Okay. So, all right. So then that would be the goal. So, all right. So then that's the question then. Do you guys believe that a pamphlet, how do you feel what do you think is the most appropriate? Because again, like written media might be, dead. or going. Now, my thing was to do the 1-2, which would be the pamphlet as well as one-to-one talks, But it might be that pamphlet written media is dead, and Sunsage was pointing out having images as well as having images on top of that, and because images are I don't know, technically you could have a pamphlet with images, but I also realized that a lot of people would try to do like YouTube videos like with their images. I don't know if that's a good medium itself, or like ads or whatever, because I could, anybody could pay for ads, and they stream it, and with a certain amount of images, as long as you're technically trying to promote something, you could pay for it, and it could be seen by thousands of people all over the continent or all over the world, pretty quickly. So I mean, like what are your ideas on what I just said?
We should do everything. We should do TikTok videos. We should do reels. We should do Instagram posts, videos, little posters, pamphlets. What we should do, I don't think we should limit it to any one thing. The one-on-one, the pamphlet's good for that, but yeah, the ads, everything.
Okay, so here's the thing. So if we're going to do any of this stuff, I'm like, one of the things that I really think is important that we do is that we have to come up with a deadline as well as a committee to work on these kind of things, and obviously we would expand it to people outside of us if we can get those people outside of us. But the idea is that if we try to do stuff, we have to we would need people to work on them, because I don't know who has the skills to. Well, Sunsay says that she's an artist, right? Let's say I'm a writer, Athrazor is a musician, so on and so forth, right? Then we would have to, and then of course we have all other skills on top of that. But the idea is that if we're looking to do stuff, we would want to get into committee and all that stuff. Now, before we get into that brainstorm, there were some questions that I wanted to ask regarding this stuff. And the reason why I would mostly focus on a handful of media is mostly because of like the cost associated with it, and realistically speaking, that if we have something good, we can allocate the cost towards that, because like for instance, I could say that for I think it was Google Ads, right? In order to be popular on YouTube, because YouTube is one of the biggest platforms, like one of the biggest internet platforms on the planet, right? And with targeted ads, you can, like, let's say if people are interested in vacationing to Africa, you can target ads to them, and then they could, whatever. So the point though is that there's like a minimum cost associated, like a minimum daily cost associated with running ads at all, and so like you could, like a minimum might be like 50 cents or $1 a day, but the point is that if it's something that's really good, we can, at least to start off, we could say $10 a day, which might be maybe we don't have to do that obviously, but that would give it quite a bit of exposure. But obviously in a month it would cost $300. So the question becomes, like, we would want something to be perfect if we're gonna drop $300 on it. You know what I mean? And the same with pamphlet, the same with Instagram. If we do Instagram, we want to spend so much money, and we want it to be worth the cost. Because if people are clicking on the video and clicking out in 5 seconds or something, that doesn't change the fact that you spent how much money on it. So we want to get that right. I want to, but anybody interested? So everybody's okay with. So the idea being pamphlet or YouTube. Okay?
Yeah, brother Oli, just a quick point of interest.
Yes, sir.
Alright, so this may be me being naive, starting late, but this sounds like wanting to organise, so thus an organisation, and so thus with any organisation, one would think about, and you may already have done this, do you have a vision? Is there a goal? with objectives that have tasks, and one of those tasks, it sounds like you're talking about, is erecting a pamphlet. And I would even just say it's like a poster that can go on, like what one of the brothers said, on all and any platform. Not like just a piece of paper flyer that you stick up on the wall, but it's almost like a brand of what the vision, you know. So am I right in saying you've already got a vision, a goal, an objectives with tasks and use of a Gantt chart even, or so you can monitor what tasks are being done, how long it takes, when it's finished, who's doing what.
Yeah, well, that's the point of the brainstorm, because I didn't want to.
Right. I see.
Yeah. Well, this is the brainstorm, so I didn't. I mean, obviously, I could have just said, this is what everybody is doing, but I'd rather, because like I said, I was thinking about pamphlets and one-to-one, but I didn't even consider, art or YouTube or anything. So that's why
my real question is, do you have you set a vision, a goal? Like, is this an organization? Because it's, as I said, you're sounding like you want us to get organized. Thus, that being an organization. Organizations normally have like a purpose, like a means to an end. This is what we're hoping to achieve, or this is the goal.
Well,
so
right
is
now,
that what you're saying is also included in the brainstorm?
Right now, we're what I could say that, well, according to this pamphlet, whatever, not the pamphlet, but this invitation, it was, we want to work together to bring Africa closer to Pan-African unity and a revolutionary mindset in 2021. Like, the question is, how can we work together to bring Africa closer to Pan-African unity and a revolutionary mindset in 2021? Because our people will not be revolutionary unless we're encouraging a consciousness of Pan-African unity and a need for revolution. So, the question is for us, like the objective here is for us to, I mean, if you want to use the word organize, that's fine. But, I mean, we could use it, we could say to organize for our people to have a more revolutionary consciousness in 2021. Because if we don't organize it, it will not happen. Or it could happen, but our role in it would be minimal.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I mean,
for there to be organized, there needs to be an actual base of operations. Like, and so far, have Discord, we don't have like a base. We don't have like a tangible center.
Well, I mean, here's the thing that I was like I said about this Discord channel. This one is quote unquote private, if you will. But my thing is this: that I think that what we can do. Well, that's what I'm saying. That was one of the questions of the brainstorming session, which was, it says, with giving each of us participants a month to engage 2 new individuals, and every month we report back on the conference to be that accountability. So, as the idea is that we can brainstorm what we would expect of our people and those that we touch on, and we can tell them, hey, you know what? Every month we want you to engage 10 new people, right? And if you fulfill, and that's like pretty much your dues in a sense to the organization or to the group or whatever. But of course, we haven't really decided on whether that's a plan of action moving forward. I mean, the point of the brainstorm was to decide on these things instead of me deciding everything. This is how it's supposed to be.
Can I say something?
Of course.
Hey, this is Koku from the Vida Medicine Podcast. I just wanted to say that, if you look at church people, like the history of church people, they would say, oh, well, we don't have a base of operations, we don't have a church. And the best way to that they got around that was to say, well, you are the church. So you become the base of operations, right? Once we have pamphlet in hand or what have you, then you become the person who's the base in your area, right, in your local community. So let's focus on the pamphlet or the task at hand that we're speaking about, right? And just to speak to that for a quick second, I look at the way people are trending right now, and the way people are trending is they like pictures, they like blurbs. They don't like, only as you know, I used to do the book club, and look at how much participation was in the book club. In fact, people were asking me and Carl Hezekiah to read the books to people, right? So that's where we are. We're in a place where people like pictures, they like short blurbs, and I think we have to meet people where they are to some extent until we transform them to what we want them to be. That's all I got to say for now.
Yeah.
All right. Asante.
So like projects.
They like projects.
If we have a project that we're working on, like one of the things that appeals to me about Koku is that he's got a project about African curriculum. I can recruit teachers to that and say, let's come and look at this. This is something that you might want to build on and contribute to.
Yeah, please do, by the way.
That's why I said I wanted to link with you afterwards, because I want to talk to you more about that.
Yes.
Me too.
Okay.
Sure thing, but for now, let's talk about Oni's brainstorm with the pamphlet and how we can construct it, etc. Right?
Yeah. All right. So thanks for that. I was like, is it a recruiting session for Koku with me? No, I'm joking. No, but yeah. All right. So okay. So you guys said blurb. All right. So that's it. So now the reason why I was hesitant on the blurb as opposed to here's a question about the blurb, because you would need multiple blurbs, I would think. Maybe. Yes. So,
yes, multiple blurbs.
Yeah, because I want to say this right here. We have this thing called. Here were the questions that I wanted to address, right? Which is, do we and how do we communicate our enemies' connectedness and evils? So what that means is that, usually I don't use the word white supremacy. Brother Nat used it earlier, but I usually don't use the word. But all the same, it's important for. I feel like it's. Do you guys feel that it's important? Guys and gals, do you all feel that it's important that we communicate that white folk are in fact working together? Do like in the sense of the UK and the US are in league together, like literally in the United Nations, but as well in as a force around the globe. Like, is that something important to communicate in this mass-oriented pamphlet? Does anybody have any objection to that inclusion, and why?
I don't think.
Why would you have a? Go on.
Oh, no.
No, but why would why would you have an objection to it? Because that's the purpose, for you to understand the system that you're living in as a black person.
Well, okay, just to play Isfet's advocate, I guess. No, I can't actually. No, I'm joking. Well, let me think. No, I mean, the idea would be that, is it just extraneous? Are we just because the thing is that we want to. Oh, so all right. So the question is, how do we? Because my issue with it would be if we just talked about it in a victim sense. This person did this or this person did that. I mean, an example would be, the constantly viewed objection to Obama, where it's like, oh, Obama bombed Libya. You know what I mean? And it's just like, okay, but it's like I want to know, to what extent.
When it comes to geopolitics, like UK and US, like it doesn't affect the dystopia that much. It if you tell a pamphlet in its favor toward dystopia, you can't talk about the issues of Africa, or you can't tell them the general about US and UK unite, and they'd be like, okay, so what does that have to do with me? What does that have to do with my victimization?
Yeah, what does it do with the price of bread? Like a lot of people are concerned about the price of bread, and we're there talking geopolitics, So that's another reason why I could see an objection. So anybody. So how? So the question is this: they're connected. How can we communicate that in a short blurb format? I'm going to write this down, and if anybody's interested in being a part of this pamphlet making process, I'm just going to take some notes, and then we could go about that later. And of course, this is an open invitation to even those who would listen in the future on YouTube.
Brother Oni.
Yes, sir.
You see, it's going back to what is the purpose? What are we trying to achieve? We're trying to make people more conscious in the 21st century. Is that correct? Is that the goal?
Well, not just consciousness, but see, not just consciousness. We want our people to want to have
nation
their own
build,
separate nation. Exactly. Have their own nation build. Nation build. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So we want them to nation build, freedom fight. One has to then start working from the goal. So does telling people about what the Wazungu, what the white people are doing to us and the cruelty, does that help us get people to sign up and be part of nation building or freedom fight?
Well, I would say... You said what?
That is the question, and something that can be tested to see. Mm-hmm. And then what it's about, my approach personally is that people care about, similar to what the brother said, people care about their own wants, their own needs. And so something that cross the line of what is it that appeals to them, as well as what do we want from them. Mm-hmm. And this is all about marketing. So this is why I said it's integral to know what is your vision, so that you can tell people. So like in Rapid Africa Plan, the vision to develop Africa is to have a 60 trillion GDP within 40 years. It's measurable, it's something that is clear, mm-hmm. It's short and sweet, and you all know what would happen if we were $60 trillion in 40 years to Africa. Mm-hmm. And it paints a picture. So with the vision, what I'm learning... Sorry bro, go on.
I was going to say, first, was the pamphlet catered to the African diaspora or the African continental? Most likely, the only part is trying to cater to the black people and the diaspora more than the continental Africans. So I would suggest for African Americans in general, I cannot speak for the African black people from other countries. I should suggest like the stats on the benefits of either repatriation, but again, why the ADOS and FDA is giving gains, because they're offering black people like money. They're offering black people reparations. The idea of money. So what we should do is a similar idea, although I know that will not happen, but we should offer a similar idea based on either separation or benefits of the comparison between integration and segregation, because what BM and AUS and FBA, what they still want is more access to whites, essentially.
Yeah, so my brother,
and let white people do all the heavy lifting.
My brother, we don't need to reinvent the wheel. We know that we've had ancestors that have decided what it is that we need, and it's very simple. Africa's for Africans, so that Africa can be owned by Africans, so that wherever we are within the world, then we will be taken more seriously and, respected, because we own our own means of production. So there is a kind of universal, global, African, clear vision. Africa for Africans. Yes, we've been oppressed and we're still being oppressed, but we're great people, and so thus we need to unite. It's very simple. Yeah. Unite, strategy.
I also want to talk to the point of
African Americans aren't.
Hold on a second. I want to talk to the point on the diaspora thing. We're not really interested in the quote unquote, like we don't want to focus on the quote unquote African diaspora as much as we need to really assess how we can get our people on the continent of Africa to be more revolutionary. I mean, it will not be exclusive to the people on the continent, but normally, because the appeal is to the masses, you would want millions of people or upwards of billions of people to be impacted by the work that we want to put forward. So I mean, and of course we would need people on the ground, and a lot of times, especially when you're talking about the quote unquote African Americans, they're not necessarily interested in being on the ground in Africa. So if we're talking about revolutionary consciousness, like revolution relates to the land, in many ways. And so instead of going on a tangent about the African American psychology, which is pretty important in America, we want to keep it relevant to the point of Africa as the like an independent African nation on the continent, because that's what we would like. So just to
the reason why I was gonna say, the reason why I focus on African Americans, because again, I'm an African American. We don't.
No, I mean the reason why I'm trying to. All right, I'm just want to. We only have 30 minutes. We only have 30 minutes left. Well, not really, but we don't have that much time left. So I mean, I understand why you spoke about African Americans.
In the UK, we don't say we're African English. We just say, most of us say we're African, done, or we're a person of African descent. We completely rebuke Britain and its brutish ways. So there is a debate about, in America, do you want to be affiliated with, your Americanness? Or can you understand that your roots are African?
Right.
Your culture might be American.
I think we know this. Sensei, what were you going to say?
Yeah.
No, Sensei.
I was going to say, like, African Americans, they want to associate with America.
Yeah, I got you. That's what I'm saying. So we don't have to worry about that.
Can I give my opinion?
Yeah. What were you going to say?
Okay, so I'm from Africa. I'm from Angola. And
Thank God. Thank God.
Angola, yeah. So, what I believe that what we're trying to do, I think every person should focus on where they're from, because you understand that area better instead of trying to crisscross everything. Because I see that there's people from the UK. I'm in the UK at the moment, actually, as well. In America, and I'm from Angola, so I understand the sub-Saharan area quite well and how the people think. Okay.
Right.
So there are aspects of where all of us will disagree of how people do things because people grow up differently. So I think for us, we should come with what we should possibly focus on. Like, I would focus on Africa, somebody could focus on the UK and like how people operate here, and then people could focus in America, and we come together and we join these ideas, which will make it easier to maybe like understand each other's perspective instead of fighting, instead of saying like, but we say this and then we say that. If you're an American, you want to associate with America as a black person or an African person, that's okay. At one point, you might want to change your mind. So we shouldn't necessarily be so aggressive with our approach, because we try to get as many people as possible to, at least be okay with the idea of like, let's be more united, let's be more African, let's be more proud of ourselves. Because this is a movement that's going to transcend time. It's not something that we can just do it overnight or even in a year, because it is quite ambitious, but it's a good ambitious dream that we should carry on. We should think very like carefully and do small like little goals instead of trying to already create land, because that's too much. Right, it's not going to happen anytime soon.
My sister as well, just to say, we're trying to come across aggressive, and I'm thinking of my approach of how you identify yourself, and you're very right in what you're saying, and but there are the general things that we agree upon, isn't it? So right, as I said,
we don't have. What were you gonna say?
I asked the question: is the pamphlet for the diaspora or the continent?
Well, that's what I'm saying. So I would more lean it towards the continent, mostly because it's kind of like with regard to I think I did explain the Garvey issue, where Garvey, he had this pamphlet, or he had this newspaper, he had this newsletter, but it was geared toward what would be the group with the most revolutionary potential. Or the group that was closest to the land that we wanted to, or was closest to the victimization, or farthest from the empire in a sense. The issue, and the reason why it would be the continent over the Caribbean islands is because the Caribbean islands are tiny, as opposed to the continent, which is huge. So whereas I completely respect Jamaica, but it's like 3 million people. You know what I mean?
Don't you think it would be nice to create like various types of posters that still give the same message, but it's kind of specific to specific people, if you know what I'm saying, like groups of people. So
I agree with that.
You should make a poster, for example, if you're in America, do it in a way that Americans will understand. Okay, if I'm in Africa, I'll do it in a way that Africans will understand.
Brother,
Because the minute I say like,
just to let you know.
just do this, be this way, people will be like, what the hell are you talking about? Like because people are too attached to what they know, and it's very hard to let go, especially Africans. Trust me. People will just look at you and be like, you're crazy, and then they will not even bother asking you many questions.
Well, that's why I want to focus on the continental. I think we should focus on the continental because, because it's like a return on investment. You know, it's like, do you because you could diversify your portfolio, or if you know that something's going to be the winner, you know what I mean? Like you could put it all on, you can put most of it on whatever. And again, you said what?
Can I just say?
Yeah.
Can I just say something real quickly?
Of course.
I look at organizing in this respect like a multinational company, right? So let's take like a McDonald's, for example, right? Just to use an example. McDonald's doesn't push like an American phenotype necessarily in other places. What they do is they do their business here in America one way, they do it in China a different way, and I think the same can be true for what we're talking about, right? We can, because I don't like the idea that we're leaving folks out anywhere in the world. So I think like Africa is the end goal, but I think there's steps towards that, and I think one of the steps is to organize where we are and organize to the people in different locales with the end goal in mind of the continent. That's just my 2 cents.
Yeah. All right. So I mean, I like that, but let's we can do that. I mean, we could do that, but I would say that for our first project, like for what we are going to work on right now, I think that it should be I think we should just focus on making something generically applicable to Africans, the continental Africans, and then. From there, obviously, we invite people to, or we even give people the tools to modify it according to their own locales. So let's say we do design, let's say 5 or whatever number of blurbs, right? We also inform people on how they can edit it to suit their own environment.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
So at least as a project, as a general project, we should work on that. So I mean, as far as I understand, though, we just to go over the questions. It looks like somebody's trying to listen in. I don't know if Kalu signed up though, so I don't know.
You can talk to him. Oh.
Yeah. You can you handle that?
Just Brother Oni, just quickly as well. I have to say I do agree with the sister, and the brother just now was saying that it makes more sense to do a flyer, even if it is kind of generic, has the same brand logo or something, that appeals to our specific area. Because I think if this is just us as the team, so to speak, it's also a question of capacity, and there is no one here apart from our sister that has understanding over an understanding of actually Africa. I think normally us as diaspora, we take the position that we think we know because we are, great. We think we're the best, and so therefore we start to think we can.
I am here.
Yeah, and like this.
Be careful.
In my opinion, how Africans view it's like when other diasporas try to take over. And it feels like our voice is diminished. We feel like you're trying to just be what the Europeans are doing. And so we're like, okay, we're not going to agree with you at all. And then there's a whole disagreement, and people just don't even want to become part of any movement like this. So you have to be very careful with how you approach it, and you have to give, like, Africans also the voice to speak on, like, because we're very protective as well.
Well, I mean, look, I think it's a pretty. Before we, I mean, I completely agree, but that's why we're brainstorming in order that we don't in order that when we have something that it's presented in the best reflection. So whereas so I think
there's four stages: brainstorming, forming, normalize it,
forming, norming, and performing. Yeah.
So we're at the stage of brainstorming. What normally happens is there's loads of brainstorm, but there needs to be a consensus. It needs to be democratic. What are we going to vote for? Are we going to vote if there is that, or is it yourself, brother Oni, and someone else that decides ultimately this is how we're moving forward? So is it that we're voting and we say, we want to do a poster from each location, or we want to do a poster which is to the continent, and then we move forward?
Oh, okay. Before we do that, I wanted to go over the diverse questions that I had listed. Only because I don't want to say his name, but somebody did ask me to limit the time and not have it go on and on. So I'm just trying to stay within the time frame. Otherwise, I would definitely like to delay further. But look here. So I think we decided that we would communicate our enemies' connectedness. The only notes I had on this was we're looking after our wants, our own wants. We want to think about marketing, and I guess the Rapid African program had a $60 trillion simple appeal, $60 trillion GDP simple appeal. So I'm gathering that like I'm not really getting a real answer as to whether and how we would communicate our enemies' connectedness in regards to this Pan-African revolutionary mindset. So can somebody give me something to work with so that when we do have here's the question right here. Is anybody interested in helping to design these blurbs?
If we're appealing to Americans, one obvious thing to show the connectedness is something like the prison industrial complex. If you're appealing to somebody else, that's not going to be a good example.
Oh, okay. I see. That makes sense. Yeah. So that would be you're saying that would be area specific. Okay. All right. That's actually good. I like that. Because my thing is this too. One of the reasons why I wanted it to be generic, just to appeal to that, is that if you can, because one of the things about it is that you want our people to have that Pan-African unity, that Pan-African, that Pan-African sense. And if we were to be too particular, because like the other questions kind of go more particular, if you're to be too particular, what it does is that it like if we approach our brothers and sisters as though they are in fact like a specific group among a larger group, which they are, but if we approach them like that, it kind of justifies it. It kind of solidifies it, and particularly inside of our own mindset, inside of our own mind frame. So as to say that if you come to me, like
you raise a good point, with regards to the marketing side of it, and with any marketing, it's always the point of, do you know your customer? Yeah. So how much do you know your customer in order to try and persuade them that this is what they need? And so it goes back to, if you know your local area, and for the example of letting us know what white people have done to us, I think a simple thing is, if you know the local statistics in your area of how much are unemployed, how much are being stabbed or shot, how much are incarcerated in prison, etc., etc. It sounds kind of old, like this has been done already, but it being depicted in a picture form, like what like some of the sisters and brothers were saying, could then kind of appeal. But it's just remembering that we need to merge what the customer wants, which is, you can go to the Maslow's hierarchy for that and just do an assessment based on the area which you're in, and can we deliver for them some of that, as well as showing to have more of it, it would take you liberating and uplifting Africa and Africans. That's what I see as the merge. Oh, what's your problem? Okay, here's the solution. But the solution comes about because Africa is free. And when Africa is free, then everyone in the whole of the world is able to be free because we have sovereignty and we're taken seriously like Jews.
Yeah, I mean, so,
yeah.
Let me just... Alright, hold on a second. Let me just write this guy. because the brother's on YouTube. His name is Sabello, and I know he was interested in joining, and he's actually on the continent too. And the thing is that if I give you guys a time, you gotta show up on time, because I can't I can't really navigate people while we're live. Yeah.
My point.
So yeah, I mean, look, the thing that I want to say is that if we're going to talk about the enemy, I want to, I personally think that we have to phrase it in such a sense that it is, they are working against us as Africans. We could say, the UK is, working against, the UK did so and so in Kenya, and we can say that. But if we're not going to say it does so and so against Kenyans as much as we say it does so and so against Africans in Kenya, And I mean, I understand that some people, if you go into the ethnic diversity of the continent, people may say, oh no, well, it was really, us as this group, and it wasn't this group, and it wasn't that group. And that's fine, but that's not necessarily the consciousness that's not necessarily the consciousness level that I think that we should address things on, only because it then gets into the characteristic of, well, if it happened to this group and it's not my group, then why does it have anything to do with me? You know what I mean? It's kind of like a double-edged sword, but the edge on our side isn't good enough it doesn't justify us moving forward in that sense. But I want to just go on to the questions, because like I said, there's only 15 more minutes. Okay.
I think there's a great mass of people who have this consciousness we need, but they don't have any direction. I don't think it's going to be such a big problem where raising consciousness. There are people who have nowhere to go with their consciousness.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. We want to summarize it. We want to summarize it quickly and give them that kind of opportunity, that option. So I want to go quickly to this next question. So it says, do we and how do we how do we communicate our connectedness and our goods? And so by our connectedness, one of the books that I usually recommend would be what was it called? African Philosophies, I think. African Philosophies, or something like that. Sorry if I'm rushing. And also, the goods that we have are, we have obviously diasporan cities. We have, we have tons of African freedom fighters, African revolutionaries, so on and so forth. So the question being then, how do we communicate? Do we communicate that, and how do we communicate that? And so what I'm thinking now with regards to this blurb is, these blurbs is maybe like a PowerPoint presentation. Okay? I think a PowerPoint presentation, maybe we can decide on how many pages, but if we have a PowerPoint presentation, we can, as a group and as a larger group, well, after we work on it, we can work on sharing it with our people and presenting it with our people. I would think a minimum of 10 people per month, and of course we can meet up, again and again in the future and discuss, where we feel like it's lacking or how effective we feel that it is. But I think that would be a good idea for us, to mix in this quote unquote it's not a pamphlet, but it's also but it's also something that we can distribute, and it's kind of like a combination between the pamphlet and the one-to-one talk. Does anybody have anything to say on that idea of a PowerPoint presentation that we designed? Is that a terrible idea? Or
to say that it's not good, Brother Oni, I think it's a good idea. But I'm just always mindful, again, are we thinking of it because it's what we think they will like? Is it because we think that's a good idea? Or do we know our customer and know this is going to be the best way to put? How much research have we done to find out in Africa, if that's what we're looking at, and the continent, again, still I would argue that, but in Africa, that stuff is happening already. Have we done any research? Is there anyone out there that's doing what you think you should be doing? How seriously are we taking this to know who our customer is? Or is it that we just want to just try some things and see if it works?
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's why we have the brainstorm.
The thing
that's why I'm asking about this stuff. Yeah, I'm asking questions, yeah.
The thing for me is, can we work on the write-up first, right? The dissemination of the information, we can figure that out. Like a PowerPoint is nothing to put together once you have the write-up already, right? Making a video about the write-up is nothing once you have the write-up already. So let's focus on what we want to say.
Okay.
Right.
So so write-up is what we want to say. You're saying, right? Okay. No, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'm rushing for time because I got 13 minutes.
It's alright.
All right.
It's
so.
alright.
All right. Yeah. Okay. So then that's the question. Like, what do we want to say? So, do we want to say, and how do we say about our enemies' connectedness? Do we want to say, and how do we say about our enemies, about our connectedness and the goods we do? And I want to ask you this: do we, and how do we want to communicate on the political, economical, and cultural organizations and their beneficiaries? As to say that, do we communicate that in whatever country? Let's say Cameroon, that the government itself is to the benefit of the Ascati, if you will, right? And how do we communicate that? Or in any of these, any nation really, or most nations are designed to benefit the people on the top, obviously. So the question is, then how do we communicate this and so on and so forth effectively? The next one is, do we and how do we communicate the need for this is another one that we don't really talk about. And because Brother Nat was asking, are there other people talking about this stuff? And it's like a permanent army, a review, like that's something that nobody's really discussing. But the need for a permanent army, how do we communicate that, or do we communicate that? And then, of course, a review of the past blunders or successes in military, finance, or science. Are those important things to address? And then, of course, it's also, and this one's a little bit more controversial, but do we and how do we communicate Africa's spiritual and ethical unity or need thereof? Or even, do we need a constitution? So, the reason why I said the spirituality thing is more of a controversy is because, on the mass level, a lot of our people are not only not about, African spiritual systems, but those who are about African spiritual systems see them as separate and apart from one another. So, but of course, if you study, African Ourstory, you realize that a lot of these spiritual systems were derivative of older spiritual systems, and because they were derivative of older spiritual systems, do we and how do we communicate that, or is that stepping on too much ground? So, like we don't have that much time. So, again, I'm going to ask if anybody's interested in being a part of this write-up process. But before anybody's interested, the question is, what is it that people feel absolutely needs to be in a write-up? So I'm going to just ask everybody, and then, we're going to ask everybody, down the list in order, which is authors are you first, then of course Brother Nat, GT911, Idi Amin, Apologist, Koku, Sunsage, and then, I'll probably just finish it off. But Altazar, what do you think needs to be in a write-up, particularly in a generic sense of Pan-African unity and revolution?
I think what needs to be in the write-up is a communication of what we're going to restore and gain, and how this is gonna, a vision of what success will look like.
Wait, sorry, can you repeat that?
There needs to be a clear vision of what success would look like, not detailed, but a powerful vision of what success will. So it doesn't have to be detailed spelling out, how the constitution, how the military will work, and how the economics will work.
What success looks like?
A compelling vision.
Compelling vision. Hold on a second. So compelling vision, and then compelling vision of what success looks like. All right, and then about anything that was said earlier, do you object to anything? Do you want to emphasize anything?
I want to emphasize that it has to be specific to the region and the people doing the work. Yes, Africa has the masses, but few of us are there on the continent.
Mm-hmm. Okay, because I mean, because one of the things with compelling vision is that we can make it such that the vision incorporates, the different, like the different effects it will have worldwide. Because a powerful African nation has a different effect for those within, and of course those without. You know, just like as we all know, a powerful United States has an effect for those, you know, quote unquote Americans, but it also has an effect for Europeans. It has an effect for Africans. It has an effect for Asians. You know, so everybody, and particularly American citizens in other nations, they have like wonderful benefits from it. So, but also, you know, obviously European immigrants and all that. But so I mean, just to clarify and make it clear that I think that this powerful vision, when we outline this powerful vision, one thing that we can do, if anybody agrees or disagrees, is that we can make it so that this powerful vision incorporates the different regions, as well as if we're talking about the things that the white folk do, you know, to highlight their connectedness. You know, we can speak about the global impact, you know, and you know, highlight all of these regions, but especially trying to include everything, you know, if we can.
Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah.
Okay, so
I like that.
So, Brother Nat, you're the next one. What do you think is absolutely necessary in this write-up, and what are your thoughts on anything else said?
So like the brother before me, I think the vision is key. You know, it needs to, as I mentioned before, with any type of organizing, I'd always encourage, number one, that you do your research, first of all, before you go in there blind. You don't know about what you're dealing with, then you're just picking up ideas, plucking them out of thin air. And, you know, that's the first thing. But vision is key. I would say it always breaks down vision. Not that it has to be explicit or in detail, but vision, objectives, or vision, goal to achieve the vision, objectives to achieve the goals, to achieve the vision, and tasks that are needed to be completed to achieve the objectives, to achieve the goal that will emulate the vision.
All right, wait, sorry, can you repeat that? Sorry, there's somebody's texting me. Oh, hold on a second. They're just texting me, and it's like, I can't do two things at once. Hold on a second. I'm gonna... Yeah.
I don't want to take up too much time, so let me just finish up, innit? With regards to as I said, I think it's key to know the research. And I really stress this because it sounds like we're kind of going white-black savior on Africa, and we don't know it. Only sister who's from Angola, unless someone's going to tell me they're in Africa right now, knows Africa. And so therefore, as I said, there are many organizations doing what you're doing already. And are we aware of it?
Okay, so wait, what's your suggestion for the write-up?
As I said, the vision, bro, if you want that, but I strongly recommend we research first and see who's doing what first, so that we can get a better understanding.
Research to work with others. Well, I mean, here's the thing about working with others, because this is like something that we really, I mean, it's okay to work with others, but one of the things that I realized, but particularly since I'm, like you said, like where I'm from is I'm in America, right? And in America, you just can't work with others, you know what I'm saying? You know, because...
you can't work with, look, what I'm saying is I've linked up with Africans across Africa, Africans across Brazil, Africans across Europe, and yourselves, America.
Yeah.
I've linked in with them.
Yeah.
I am part of those organizations. And so thus I have a better, more respective appreciation, and kind of contradictory to how I started the conversation, which my sister quite rightly pulled up, is that we are of difference. And so therefore one needs to be respectful of knowing difference, but understanding that we all have commonalities. As a human race, debatable whether they're part of the human race, we have commonalities. You know, it's written in common law, natural law. We know this, or we should know this. And so it is very simple. We need to know who we're talking about, which is why the argument of knowing, just focusing on our particular area, was quite poignantly made by a few of us. But if we're going to go down the continent route, know the continent. Link with them. I can link everyone with the continent if they're not already.
Well, my thing is this: that I plan on going to the continent with whatever we do in hand. You know what I mean? So you know, like my purpose would be that I would actually relocate to the continent and do what we got to do. But that's like, you know, me personally. So, but as far as, you know, like I said, working with other individuals, it's like, you know, when it comes to, again, we want to appeal to the masses. The masses are not really being appealed to right now. If they are, it's not like we have to cast our own lot, and not just that, but we have to be of the mentality that whatever it is that we want to accomplish, we have to understand that we're going to be the people to do it. You know, I might have to go a little bit over the time, but yeah, all right, I appreciate that. You know, we have to research what other people are doing, how they're doing it, obviously, and you know what that vision looks like. I'm going to jump to GT 9/11, and you tell me what you think has to be in this write-up.
Well, I believe what has to be on this write-up has to be our vision, as everybody's stated already before me. A time span where we aim to achieve, and the solutions what it will achieve at the same time. For all that we're trying to talk, what we're trying to bring everybody to understand is that technically is that we have different messages, but the same, all different messages lead to the same one message, is where the nation, no matter where we are on the planet, as we are spread around, because not all of us can go back to Africa. That's what we have to understand. So Africa has to become, like, the borders of Africa has to extend outside of Africa. So yes, everything has to be like geographically targeted, but at the same time is our vision, the time span of when we're trying to so our vision is like we want to achieve, say, nationhood. So we'll give a time span of like probably 75 years. We elect and look at at least one African nation is actually practicing African values. You know what I'm saying? Not Western democracies, puppet formats. You know what I'm saying? So, vision, solution, and yeah, that's all I would say. Vision and solutions.
Okay,
that's
vision, time span we aim to achieve, and solutions. Just to clarify, even though the idea that we can't all go to Africa is definitely true. But that's the thing, though, that we have to realize, or we have to, as a conscious community, we have to realize that the people who will not return to Africa until Africa has a powerful nation, will not be, free in a sense. You know, kind of like the people, the Chinese diaspora did not have any real say anywhere on the planet until China liberated itself. You know, until like there was the Asian people generally, but Chinese people in particular didn't really have a say until China had some power. And then even so, we have to realize that if you're a part of the Chinese diaspora, you still will not have the same freedom in European nations, notwithstanding. You know, so like a lot of African people that we tend to want to appeal to are never gonna have any freedom, because you're never going to. Like if you're as long as you are a citizen in a Wazungu nation, you're not really going to be a political threat to that nation that they can't deal with. The only thing that would make them resist dealing with you would be that powerful African nation. But even so, it would be better for you, if you really wanted civil liberties, to be in that African nation itself. So the idea that, one of the things about, we can't all go back to Africa, that's fine. But, the reality being that it's going to be the people in Africa who are going to have, it's going to be some people in Africa who are going to have this freedom and the liberty that we're fighting for. And the people who decide to, adamantly resist, being somewhere where they're liberated, it's just going to be I feel like they will not resist it if Africa were strong, but if they do resist it, even if Africa is strong, then that's just on them. Kind of because I was thinking, I just want to clarify this before we go to Idi Amin, that, the three revolutionaries that I feel are really powerful and impactful would be Akompong, or people know her as Queen Nanny, and Zinga, and obviously we have Taharka. And the thing is that, like Idi Amin was saying, all of them had a base of operation. The Maroons were free. Queen Nanny was free because she absconded to a deserted mountain. You know what I mean? And Zinga was free because she had her own nation. Taharka was free because he had his own nation. You cannot expect to. I mean, with the exception of if this African nation decided to intervene in other nations, if it were that strong, that's a possibility for those who decide to never leave leave for the continent. But that is up to them in the future, and whether that would be their priority to use all their resources towards liberating people who can just move, or who they can pay.
Brother Oni,
yes,
sorry, just quickly to interject. I know there's an order of people speaking, but just to quickly say, to kind of wrap up and offer a position of having a base. The Rapid Africa Plan organisation that I work for have set up an African-owned Facebook. It is private, it's monitored by us, no one goes in there, and we're trying to build capacity to have people to be part of the movement. Mm-hmm. Now that kind of coincides kind of with the kind of, I guess, project that you're working on, that we're working on, which is great. So I can offer up straight away a base, a virtual base, for us to have discussion, to load up information, to plot out a marketing strategy, if that was an idea, a constitution of this is the goals, and as I said, the solutions, like the brother said. So I stopped there, but it's just to say, and that's because I decided to venture out and look in Africa virtually. So that's there if we want to use it.
All right, well, thank you for the offer. We're gonna, obviously, like you said, it would have to be more people would if they want to. I'll think about it, mostly because I don't personally use Facebook. So I don't.
No. A African-owned version of Facebook.
Oh, okay.
What we've been trying to do over here in the UK is move from using US, China, any other platforms apart from ours. So over here in the UK, some of us are using African-owned Zoom. Some of us are using African-owned.
Okay, all right. I got you. All right, so I got you now.
Right.
I thought you said Facebook. Sorry. All right, Eddie. What do you think about what do you think should go into the write-up? If the write-up team were to meet up, what do you think that they should?
Well, like I said, it depends on. Are we talking about the dysphoria, or are we talking about the continental?
We're talking about the continental.
Well, I have nothing much to say with the continental, really. Other than maybe Liberia and Sierra Leone.
All right, what do you think about permanent armies, and that kind of stuff? Do you think that we should be discussing permanent armies? Do you think we should be talking about spirituality? Do you think we should be talking about the connectedness, white supremacy? Do you think we should be talking about Ascari? What do you think we should be talking about?
Okay. Well, to be honest, I guess we should talk about whatever works. Like at this point, I noticed a lot of people, a lot of African continentals are disillusioned with democracy. At this point, they just want whatever helps industrialize their country, whatever brings food to the table, whatever gives them shelter and just less less chaos. So I would suggest focusing on, I guess, the job opportunities from being economically nationalistic or or something that involves building more housing, or something that involves bringing more food to the table.
Gotcha.
Something.
Yeah, solution.
Job opportunities.
Yeah.
You said food on the table.
So I would suggest
material benefits,
kicking out foreign companies. Something about focusing on buying local, buying local stuff, buying something that was made by African hands, and focus on putting money on that. And I would say aid, Euro-Asian aid or Euro-Asian donations from other countries, like the one over Rwanda. Rwanda decided to cut out taking in clothing from Euro-Asian countries. And then I remember Trump tries to put sanctions on them because they were trying to say, now we're going to make our own clothing. Do something similar like that. in Nigeria, they used to have a nice textile company, a nice textile industry, and now
nationalization.
Yeah,
that's what you're really talking about, nationalization.
Yeah, nationalization. Focus on buying Black African-owned stuff, like focus on funding African-owned stuff, and cut off aid or like funding from like China or like other products from China or Europeans.
Okay.
Like I said, the textile.
Speak to the inferiority. Gotcha.
In Nigeria.
That's actually a good idea. Speak to the inferiority or the sabotage of other people. And then,
because I know it's like a lot of Chinese companies, fishery companies, also going in Nigerian lakes and they're draining the food source there. So
gotcha.
Talk about that as well.
All right, that's good. Koku, what do you think? Should be in the write-up. Like the writing team or the lesson planning team, whatever, are trying to, they need something to work with. When I come to them and I say, hey, let's write up something. What is the message you want to pass on?
I'll be right back.
I like what I've heard from others so far. I would just say that I think the first thing that the reader should get is the benefit. Like, why am I doing this? What's the benefit, right? Like, when I look at pharmaceutical companies, I see they talk about the benefit first, and sometimes it's just like two benefits and a bunch of side effects at the end, but the people gravitate to it because of the benefit. The benefit speaks to their experience, right? The second thing I would look at is I would try to be holistic in terms of I'll try to show that the conflict is a connected one, and so the work that we do here helps others over there, etc., etc. But first and foremost is the benefit.
Okay, but what is the benefit? Because if I go to the writing team and I say a benefit, like, do you want them to think of it, or what do you think is a benefit? Like, what is a benefit that needs to be articulated?
I mean that's something that we could brainstorm through. I'm sure there's a list. We could come up with a short list of benefits. But I mean, ultimately, we're trying to talk about a strong Africa, right? There's a myriad of benefits of having a strong Africa. Like I talked about this on my show recently about like an American can almost go anywhere and do almost any dumb shit, and their government comes and fetches them, right?
Of course.
So we want something similar. We want a strong Africa so that wherever we are, there's some protections, there's some aid, etc., etc., etc.
I want to say this because Koku has a really great program, bit of as a podcast, but one of them had this clip from some speaker who was saying about how because Africa has a young population, right, where the point is I think now the median age in Africa is like 18, but which means like over 50% of African people are under 18, but also like on the continent, but also like the rulers are like 80 years old on average or something like that. And they're really disconnected from the youth and all that. So a large part is that we are, naturally, if we're appealing to the masses, we're appealing to the youth. Because the youth and the masses are like one and the same right now, particularly on the continent. And also another thing to realize is that because the continent is so young, right, that we, generally speaking, would be the elders, notwithstanding the fact that we're not, not all of us are present there at the moment. But these are basically young people who, for the most part, even though we don't want to sound, pedantic or whatever, but like Wazungu might sound, but we have to understand that one of the troubles with youth unemployment, which is something that's going to be a natural condition regarding a weak economy and a large youth population, is that it decays into child warfare. Like warfare on a large scale with child soldiers fighting for limited resources and limited job opportunities. And so right now Africa is a powder keg, and Koku outlined it in one of his podcasts already. But the reality of Africa being a powder keg, and the reality that that something needs to be done where we give our people that wider opportunity. If we don't do that, Like if we don't do that, we're going to be in big trouble. Notwithstanding the fact that we want to like sit back and say, hey, you know what, we want Africans to, we want it to be, respectful to the continent, and that's something that absolutely is a must. But we also must understand that it's a powder keg. The situation of mass, of older Africans, older Ascati, just exploiting the people on the continent and giving them, nothing in return, or making them inherit something that's going to be, a bunch of hunger and a bunch of starvation on a mass scale. So I mean that's something I want to just interject on that. And then we're just gonna go to Sun Sage, and she can. So that's something I want to say about that's what I wanted to say regarding to this write-up, that we might have to also outline that, but I'll bring that up later. The powder keg situation, but Sun Sage, thank you so much for being here. Could you explain to us? Can you tell us what do you believe should be on the write-up? There's a write-up committee. What do you think should be on there?
Okay, so I just want to touch on a couple of points that were mentioned by the other members.
Okay.
You said the goal is for everyone, hopefully one day, to move back to Africa to make it prosperous again, correct?
Well, I did not say everyone, but I mean...
Not everyone.
Yeah.
Definitely
I said most people.
No, yeah, definitely not everybody.
I'll call it a win if we all settle in Liberia.
Well, I mean, hold on. I think so. No, I mean, I'm not going to tell people to move per se, but the goal more so is that we have a revolutionary consciousness on the continent.
I just want to touch on that. Maybe you could rephrase your goal better by, instead of focusing on just being revolutionary, it's like, how are you going to be revolutionary? Are you going to get Africa to be back on its feet? Do you want just Africans to be aware of how great they once were? Do you just want them to be proud of their heritage? What do you want them to do? You have to think in those terms, like, in what direction are we going in terms of being revolutionary?
Well, all right, so
my best approach is focusing on, first of all, educating the masses and ensuring that they get an education and they know what they're doing. And that will also increase trade, because we have to trade with each other to be powerful again, because that's what Africa pretty much does in terms of, what it has. If we are in control of our things and how we trade, then we get to be back on our feet. But to do that, my opinion in what should be written is that we need to focus on education, because most people in Africa are young, and you might be like, oh, everyone's young, that means they can easily rebel. But no, that's not the truth. Most people don't even make it to old age because they die at a young age because of all the diseases that are in the country, in the continent. So that's just one of the factors. People have to be educated about the risks of disease, of what they're doing, of just everyday regular mathematics. I think my opinion is that since you guys speak English, introducing countries that don't speak English that much, because most of the people in Africa, it's 90% of the people speak the native languages. They don't really speak English, or they're not even aware of social media, because they're just so used to what they see on their day-to-day basis. It's a very small percentage of people who have access to the internet, and even that percentage is quite little that is actually aware of what we're talking about. I could say at least 2% of the people are in touch with things beyond Africa, beyond the everyday social media, Instagram hype. I personally, I've been around the internet, I've been around the Western ways of being and mentality, but coming across Marcus I forgot his name. See,
Marcus Garvey.
Yeah, him.
Isaiah Garvey.
I think it's Marcus Garvey. Yeah.
No, his middle name is Marcus. His middle name is Isaiah, right?
Oh, I don't know, but my point is that I just came across
Mosiah,
came across his name, or what he's done this year. So you have to see, there are people who have a lot of opportunities, but they don't even come across any of these things by chance. because even though maybe our past leaders knew it, but our parents didn't get taught it because the system changed completely and they went full communist on everybody, even though they pretend that we're a democracy. But the youth is waking up finally. All around Africans are rebelling, which is like really exciting to see. But yeah, for me, it's definitely focused on education and trade. And I believe that not everyone should move to Africa. People should have an opinion on what they should do with their lives. But I believe that the diaspora around the world should trade and consider ways of exchanging goods with one another. So, for example, in the UK, there's high tech, it's quite advanced technology, whereas us back home, we can focus on the textiles and the resources, and if we exchange those things, we both bring each other up. That's one of the points that I wanted to make.
Okay, yeah, so you said education, trade, and let's not say revolution per se. I got you. So yeah, one of the things I would definitely...
No, I said revolution, but consider what kind and what type. Don't just say revolution, because revolution can have many ways and can have many directions.
Yeah, so the thing I want to emphasize was we want to do what was known as state building, or like, forming our own, well, I would say forming an independent state. So, I mean, technically, even the people on the continent would need to move if we had our own nation and it didn't happen to be on their land.
I don't think that's realistic to do that, because with moving, it's a lot of culture involved and traditions that developed over the years. Mm-hmm. For example, I don't want to be offensive to anyone, but from my own observations of living abroad and understandings that Americans and like people usually outside of the UK, of Africa, specifically like specific countries, there tends to be a very like watered down version of traditions just because you're not around it, so it's quite easy for you to lose it. And some people don't like that. People feel very much at home. For example, me being from Angola, I'm quite different from like most, but my people love being around each other. Like they will be in a whole different continent, but they will still find each other and only hang out with each other. They don't care about anybody else.
Yeah.
So so even if you create a whole state, that's bound to happen, because even in history with Africans that lived near each other, they still had their own little tribes, even though they had one central government. So I think instead of trying to move everyone to one local area and create a whole different state and military and like build a whole nation, I just think you should first focus on waking up the people for them to do it themselves. Because even the governments as well, it's terrible. Like every single government in Africa is terrible, corrupt. They will kill you straight away if they thought that you were even trying to create a nation.
Yeah, obviously, yeah. But that's why you'd want the consciousness to be more broad. But also that's the point at hand. The reality being, because that's another thing that they said about Marcus Garvey, was that because like he had what was known as the Caribbean personality, and the Caribbean tend to not really be as like linked to land per se, or that was like the reputation they had back then, like 100 years ago.
But you also have to understand the context that he was in. Like years ago, it was much easier for you to move into a African country and create a whole new country and a whole people. Yeah. But nowadays, like things have become so solid that people have become attached to their location that they just won't move. And imagine you're in your country and some people just move into your area and they establish a nation. You'd be like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, of course you would be, but that's the trouble is that we're going to have resistance regardless of what we do. And so you have to expect that there's going to be resistance, and even if there is resistance, it's imperative that we try to overcome it. Because
no, but that sounds very imperialistic. You can't just move into people's country and choose to create a nation.
Well, that's the thing.
Very American.
I want to say this.
Your approach right now is very American.
Yeah.
And very anti-African.
No. I want to clarify. No, I want to clarify.
Liberia.
I want to clarify this point.
But the thing is, like, me as an Angolan,
Hold on, guys. Guys.
What you said?
I said me as an Angolan, I wouldn't move to Liberia because I'm like.
No. I'm not saying.
All right, guys, hold on. We shouldn't be arguing. Hey,
the diaspora should move. The American diaspora should move to Liberia and Sierra Leone.
All right, so.
But what about the people that are already there?
Okay, so like, let's not argue, guys. Let's not argue.
Those lands were ours technically.
You say technically because
all right,
people are
guys. I mean, as much as I like arguing.
It sounds like what they did to us, the colonial era.
All right. So this is the thing we have to understand.
We need to listen to our sister the most, you know. Our sister is from Africa. She's the one that knows what she's talking about, and she's spoken the most she's spoken the most sense coming from, in my humble opinion, coming
guys,
from Africa. If we come up with this UK, no. If we come up with this UK, American,
guys, we have to be moderated. We have to be moderated. Guys, we have to be moderated. All right. You don't want to just take over the time. Just to, I mean, because I understand everything that's being said.
Africans, we all speak loads, and you speak a lot, and we all speak a lot. You know what I mean?
Okay, yeah. All right, hold on a second. Instead of arguing,
and we're late.
Yeah, instead of arguing, exactly. We're running over time. Instead of arguing, I want to just remind us that realistically speaking, the idea of quote unquote imperialism was not a Wazungu idea, but instead, you know, you have to realize that ancient Africans did in fact establish colonies all over the world, and that's the reason why you would find, you know, pyramids on every continent.
But you can't use that as an excuse. People didn't live in those areas before. Of course, you could just go set up a
No.
tent
People lived in those
there.
areas. No. People lived in those areas to the point where even ancient Kemet that we tend to like, the indigenous population was not the ruling class in ancient Kemet, but instead it was the child of Kush, just the same as, you know, the ancient Chinese population. Ancient Chinese, the first dynasty in China was ancient African colonists, the same as the first dynasties all over the world. And they did have.
It's fair for you to use these terms.
You said what?
To apply to, like, I don't think it's fair for you to use the term colonists.
Well, I mean,
for example,
that would be the.
Listen, people from Kush, the Abyssinia, Ethiopia zone, like the Uganda area, like those were the first native Africans, it was, that we know of, but they still weren't imposed. And some of those
we're
people
not looking to impose.
Pharaohs. It wasn't just because only Kemet became pharaohs. Those people also became pharaohs.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. We're not looking to impose, but we have to understand that that in our story, we do in fact establish civilizations all over the world, and to the point where all over the planet, you know, civilization building is something that we do intrinsically.
But you're speaking of migration. Everyone migrates.
Exactly.
If I live here in the UK, then I end up migrating to the UK. That's fine, but I'm not imposing myself.
Well, yeah. Well, that's the thing.
I'm not saying everyone should move to a specific country and we're gonna set up like a country and we're gonna set up a zone. Like that's infiltration. People don't like that at all. It sounds nice in the bigger picture, but realistically, it does not apply, and it's very imperialistic.
Well, I mean, it sounds imperialistic, sure, but the reality is that if your government, if they, like, essentially the governments of the nations, as you were pointing out, the governments of the nations are in fact imposing on our people as it is, but they're not just imposing on them; they are blocking the trade. They are blocking, our indigenous practices. They're blocking our culture. What we can do is we can have a situation where we allow for our existence to not be in that sense. And I mean, the example that we can even go to is, like you said, you're in Angola, was, like I said, Nzinga. And Nzinga, she expanded her territory to stop the enslavement of Africans.
But you know why and how? She already had her territory,
exactly,
which is near other people's territory, and they banded together to fight against the enemy.
So that's
but it's not like that she imposed her people to move into that location.
Well, she invited anybody to join. Remember, she invited anybody to join. So that's another thing that you have to realize too. She said anybody who wants to live freely can join in on her land. So that's really like a base and model for the kind of mentality and mindset that we want. As to say that we want to establish some land and we want to establish some new rule of law, and we obviously are going to respect the traditions already on the continent, but that's not to say that we want to be absolutely silent on what would be abuses that are going on the continent, and that will keep going on moving forward if we decide to be silent. Because, as you said, if you move to the UK and you don't want to impose on the government, that's fine. but understand that if you don't want to impose on the government, and then they're doing something that's unjust and so on and so forth, you will be abused. Now, yeah.
I'm sorry. I think we might be a little off topic, but I think the idea of imposition changes when you bring something to the table, right?
Exactly.
So if you're talking about repatriation and you're talking about people going back to Africa who have something to offer to the continent. This is what I talk about all the time when I talk about this curriculum building stuff, right? You have people who can go back and solve problems on the continent. I don't think people view that as much of an imposition as those who go there to kind of live off of what the folks there already built, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah. I mean, exactly. We have to, when we talk about Africa, we have to understand that, like I said, African spirituality is, really supposed to be, I mean, one of the terms that they used in ancient Africa would be ma'at, and this idea of reciprocity as opposed to exploitation. And when we talk about imperialism in Wazungu, we have to realize that Wazungu, the trouble with Wazungu is that Wazungu is an exploiter. He's exploitative. It's not so much that he decided to go to another land as much, or to go to another land and establish something, as much as he went to this other land to steal and murder and kill. So what we're doing is that when we go to the continent, we're not looking to murder, kill, steal. We're looking to be reciprocal and build up and develop the wealth and of our people and our nation.
So don't you think the focus would be people going to the country and have jobs, offering jobs and education? That would be a better approach. So people can choose whichever country that they go to, so that people, like Nat said, if we know people from like at least 1 or 2 people per country in the continent, and they start something, and then you start enriching those people and the people around them, then it becomes much easier for like people from diaspora to be like, oh, there's opportunities in Africa, I can easily help, and I'll go there and do it, and they can easily select the country to go and do that.
Well, I wanted to say that realistically, hold on a second. I think that it's about the multi-levels, that there is, on one level, you do want to, like on a first stage, like on a first level, you would want to just improve some locale, temporarily, but ultimately you would want to have a free nation. It's not enough for the quote-unquote...
So what level are we on?
Well, hold on a second.
That's fine. We're on level 0. You need to take it one step at a time.
So can we take it one step at a time? Exactly. Can we take it one step at a time?
Well, yeah.
The simplest thing to do is to everybody contribute $1 and then connect it to the person that is in Africa. That way, you're showing, listen, money is currency, money is everything. So right now, you guys need it, right? And we can spare $1. So do you know what? Here's your $1, and anyone else that needs supported will support you too. What that does, it quickly, on level 0, which we're at, we are not anywhere near. Especially if, like, I think of my Rapid Africa Plan organization that I'm part of, that has got proper structure. They're not anywhere near. And so all you need to think about is, all right, everyone, in my opinion, let's just raise $1. Everyone put $1 and do that weekly or monthly, and then let's just link it to the people of that area. What you're doing, you're being the change. Being it. You're not talking it.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that.
Also, please talk about self-sufficiency. That's quite important.
Right.
Yeah, alright, so, yeah, that's what I'm saying. So, like, technically we're trying to do this, we're not trying to have a debate here, because that's meaningless. We could debate and then go over...
Brainstorming.
We can debate, yeah, exactly. We can debate and then we can go about our way.
Agree.
Alright, so...
And unless it's your agreement, and then we just follow that,
yeah,
that's cool. I don't mind that either.
Okay, well, we can't just speak over each other, because it's getting late. The point is that we have to realize that all right, so that's the thing. So we have these ideas for a write-up. Okay? It seems like everybody's on board for a write-up. So now all I want to know is who wants to participate in the write-up. Whatever it is.
Yeah, put me down for sure.
Okay. All right. That's what we need, cuz we need real things instead of, just ideas that sound good, but
You spoke of a real thing, bro. Sorry, I'm gonna talk over you. I just simply said we can all put $1 down.
Well, all right.
Put it in.
The reason why I say the dollar thing. The reason
And
why
I
I say
say
the dollar
that
thing is
because I've done that this whole year. I've been sending £30 to a brother who's on my radio station, who's in Ghana, and he's been sending pictures of the supplies that he's been buying for factories in Ghana to fix them so that they can be self-reliant. We've been sending money so that we can just give them the resource now.
This is the trade that I was talking about. We give the resources, and you guys, because you guys have a lot of technology here. There's so much, and the currency back home in any country, it's
ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. people barely get $1 a month. People don't eat well.
Listen to our African sister who knows because she's from Africa.
No, I mean I understand. What I'm saying is that $1 doesn't sound like that much.
Me just being here, it's a full sacrifice on my parents' behalf. Like, if I get a job here, it's like, oh, you know how much more I'll be able to help my family and go on with my project. The pound is heavy.
Okay, I'm all right. So I don't know what to say to that, because I mean when you say $1 and then you say 30 pounds, it's totally different. Because $1 is nothing.
I was imagining that I was 30 people. You see, if you had 30 people, you talk about let's recruit 2 people each time. If you have 10 people, that's $10 a month. That's something.
I mean, the thing is that, like I said, I'm willing. I have a bit of resources to use, to spend. I have quite a few to spend. It's not like it's like I want to use my resources. But
okay, let's do
when
it.
you said $1,
Okay.
it was
Alright. Well, do you have a link for that?
We'll do that.
Well, do you have the link? You say you donate. How you donate it to them?
I transferred it to my brother's account. And
so it's like a pay. So it's more like a PayPal thing. Okay.
It's not really PayPal. You deposit on bank account, no?
Well, I thought it was some kind of website.
Okay. All right. So. All right. So it's only Koku that wants to be on the writing session. Is that what it is? Okay. All right. So
no,
that's
bro.
fine.
I'll be part of that as well. Happy to.
Okay. So all right. So Koku, brother.
Is there a deadline for the?
Yeah. All right. So we need a deadline. That's what I was also thinking.
Because I'm still a student. I'm an engineering student. So I have like a lot of assignments right now. I can't really participate, but I'd love to do the self-sufficiency because it is a project that I want to start on my own. So.
You said self-sufficiency?
Yeah, like on how to make Africa self-sufficient.
Okay, I don't know what that means. What does that have to do with anything? You talking about the write-up?
Yeah.
Oh, you want to do a part of the write-up?
Yeah. But I just need to know if there's like enough time.
Well, yeah, we're looking to have this ready before 2021. So I would actually just give it, I want to say 2 weeks. So is that better? So I want to say, yeah, so by the 28th of Saturday, I would like a write-up, a joint writing project. 28th of Saturday, let's give a time. What was the time that we had today? 3 p.m. 8 p.m. UTC? Alright, so by 8 p.m. UTC, I would like for us to have this kind of thing. Alright, so it's just Brother Nat and Koku. It seems like, so you can't make 2 weeks time, right? Sunsage?
For me?
Yeah, you can't make 2 weeks time, right?
No, I just need a bit more time, yeah, because I have assignments.
Okay, so you can't. Okay, so I'm not gonna add your name then. Alright, so then that's fine. So I'm gonna ask more people if they want to join on that. How is the writing team linking up with people in Africa? Says Sabello. Yeah. So that would be it. So we're gonna have 2 people. I guess I'll put my head in there too, and that's what it is. So that's the reason why I don't like to engage in debate though, because as you can tell, not everybody's going to be a part of the writing team, and if we don't have the assignment for the writing team, it's going to be pointless for us to engage.
I would be a part of the writing team.
I don't know what you waited for, but okay. All right. So
I was going to be a part of the writing team.
All right.
What do you mean by it's pointless to engage?
Well, about debate, why debate? I mean, you want the brainstorming to occur, but you also realize that at the end of the day, the finished product, it's going to have to reflect the finished product. you want to have as much as you can for the write-up right now, so that then we can actually do the write-up. Because if we don't do the write-up, then if we don't have enough to do the write-up, then we're gonna have nothing from the whole session. You get what I'm saying? So if we engage on theories of imperialism, which is a good idea, or like the end goal, and like what would be the final stage, if you will, or stage 7, even though we're on stage 0, and like stage 1 is something brilliant and beautiful, obviously, but the idea is that regardless, if we just engage in debate, we're just going to be engaged in engagement in debate, as opposed to what we're going to write up. So I understand the idea that, hey, stage 1 is something that involves nobody moving, because nobody has anywhere to move right now, and nobody wants to move anywhere. And even if there was something that was, because the thing is this too, that we have to realize that there's such a thing called economic migration. I want to speak on that the reason why you're in the UK, for instance, is because of economic migration, and so the idea is that if we have this nation, this powerful nation state, that people all over the continent. You said what?
I'm here for education, because that's what I want to bring back to my country. People need to be educated.
Well, yeah,
so we don't have to come here to get it.
Exactly. You see what I'm saying? So like people move for economic reasons. You know what I mean? Like technically you plan on having some sort of career after that, I hope. Otherwise you're just studying. I don't know. But anyway, we shouldn't dilly-dally, I guess. So thanks everybody for joining us. It looks like Sabello wants to. Sabello also asked Brother Nat if you could share more details on the African version of Facebook, but I think you could do that, in the group later.
I have a question.
Wait, I'm gonna sign off with the YouTube, okay? So for that,
before you go, can I ask if everyone that participated in this discussion will get at least a copy of what's being written, so that we can at least have an idea of what will be discussed next time?
Yeah. Sure.
A copy of what's written?
Yes.
Well, I wrote it in shorthand, so it's not really legible, but it's being recorded on YouTube.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
I think I thought she was referring to like the initial write-up.
Well, yeah, she had that. She had that in email. That's the thing. Oh wait, you mean the first draft after we do the write-up?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, okay, sure.
Are you gonna do it by email, or are you gonna send like?
Hold on a second. Because we're on YouTube, I don't really think that they need to hear this part. That's why I'm gonna sign off.
Right.
Because it seems like a personal question. All right, so thank everybody for joining. Thanks for listening to the Revolutionary Brainstorm session, November 14th. A little bit of a hiccup, but that's. I want you guys to realize. I want people at home to see that this is how it is, realistically speaking. You gather, as Brother Nat said, you gather a couple of Africans together and they start talking over each other. You know what I'm saying? But it happens. It's all good. I'm looking forward to this write-up when he starts yelling at me about how I need to listen to the African sister. You know what I'm saying? And Sabello, who was listening.
Oh no, it's just that we get ahead of ourselves, so that we don't realize how much we've been dipped in the system of white supremacy.
Hold on a second.
We are trying to be a bit obscure.
I want to say this, Sabello could have signed on, and he could have been the African brother. And hopefully he would have been on my side, and then I could have had this African said this, but this Continental said this, but never mind. All right. So thanks so much everybody for listening to the Pro-Black Perspective on KWZ Radio. Tomorrow me and Koku are gonna be on a joint KWAZ radio podcast. So make sure you tune into that. Also, I got another podcast coming in.
I'm not a white man in a suit, so I haven't got that money.
You said what?
No, sorry, there was a homeless black person trying to ask me for money. I gave her what I could, and she's looking at it like, what's the problem? And I'm telling her, I'm not a white man in a suit, so therefore I'm not on that socio-economic ladder.
Alright, hold on a second. I'm just gonna tune out. So what I'm saying was that, so tomorrow...
And she didn't take it.
Alright, so tomorrow is Sunday African Worship.
You should have said it now. I have no money.
Alright, guys. So tomorrow is Sunday African Worship on, as you know. And as far as I understand, also, I think within 3 hours, Bit of Medicine Podcast is going to have a podcast going tonight. So that's all I want to tell you guys. Thank you so much for listening, and of course, Shemi Amotep.
Alright.
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure, mate.
Alright, guys.
Same here.
Thanks so much.
We're good.